Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is FBC Radio Live. It's Thursday, the 21st of December. It is almost Festivus, John. I can't wait. Tomorrow, we're going to celebrate, since we're not on the air on Saturday. We're going to celebrate, of course, like we always do on the show. It's kind of a tradition. Since the show started years and years and years ago. I don't even remember, to be honest with you, how long I've been doing the show. Actually, like 4 years or something like that. I don't even know. It's crazy. But been doing the show more than I've been going. Actually, I might have had more episodes than more days that I attended in high school. So there you go. Look at that. But anyways.
Well, in high school, did you start in ninth grade or 10th?
Ninth, because we're like normal.
4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, you're like normal, I see. So you're
Yeah.
criticizing my high school where we had so many kids. We only had 3 years of high school, 10th, 11th, and 12th, because like my graduating class was like 725 kids.
John, I lived in Framingham, Massachusetts.
Well, I'm thinking. You had two high schools, though, right?
No,
Framingham
that was gone in the early '90s. That was gone long before me.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was one high school. There was a technical high school, but that serviced obviously more than just the town. So, but yeah, we had a big class. I think my graduating class was maybe twice as many people as yours, and it was awful too because we had to sit outside. It was like a overcast, gloomy day, and we had to listen to our vice principal literally read every single name and every single honor that every person got. It was oh god, it was miserable.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it was terrible. But that was almost 20 years ago, John. So yeah, it is what it is. Anyways, we're not here to talk about me, or at least in that capacity. We're always here to talk about me. I'm okay talking about me, just not high school me. But no, we're obviously, we're gonna do some airing of grievances. I'm not sure in what capacity that's gonna end up, but we're gonna do it tomorrow. Probably complain. I'm gonna complain about the shootout. Forewarned anyone out there that listens to me when it comes to hockey. But we'll probably talk some NFL things. And you know what? I'm one of my grievances, I guess, not really a grievance, but I'm gonna take a little bit of a victory lap here, John, because I don't want to say I told you so because I'm not saying this to you, like directly, just in general, to the people out there, that anyone that thought otherwise. The whole Aaron Rodgers thing was just one big publicity stunt. I mean, let's be honest. Like, there's not a chance, and I said this weeks ago. There's not a single chance in the world that he's going to come back from injury. You agree? He's kind of an attention guy. He needs it. He craves it. He's been out of the spotlight, certainly because his team is bad too. I kind of saw, I saw this coming from a mile away, and I do think there's some criticism to be had for kind of taking a spot from someone who otherwise would have been able to play had it not been for Aaron Rodgers wanting to be out there to, I don't know, serve whatever purpose he's serving.
Well, he just got activated yesterday to the active roster, right? So he hasn't taken up a roster spot till yesterday.
Now, yeah.
And I'm thinking that there's still a 1% chance that he plays the final weekend of the season.
Not a chance.
Well, we'll see. We'll find out.
There's
I'm saying there's a chance.
Well, I know you're hopeful.
Oh, I'm not even hopeful. I just think this is how he rolls. Like, he loves being the center of attention. So every week he goes on McAfee.
I agree.
Updates us.
I agree with that.
Out there on Tuesday. Oh yeah. So
I just
out there Tuesday. He's not going to play, and then next week he may come on McAfee and say, you know what, it's feeling better, and I threw the ball in practice, and yada yada yada, and then we get to the final weekend of the season, which by the way is Patriots Jets, which is going to be fascinating because it could be Bill Belichick's last game as head coach of the Patriots against the Jets.
Another thing you're hopeful for.
Well, yeah, I'm hopeful of that, and it could be Aaron Rodgers like stealing part of the spotlight. Like the two biggest stories the last couple of months have been about Bill Belichick. Is he coming back, or where is he going to land next year? And is Aaron Rodgers coming back? And we're talking about two teams that are god awful. Like that seems to be like a big part of the conversation in the NFL, which I think is part of the reason is the season hasn't been really.
No, it really hasn't been any good. But
so we're talking about a great coach and a great quarterback and what they're going to be doing.
Well, and again, like I said, I mean, this was all manufactured by Rodgers. I get it. Look, I'm not like I said, you say 1% chance, I say negative 1% chance. I you know what I mean? I just, like I said, there's no good reason. First of all, second, again, it's just not. I just don't think he's medically cleared. But you saw, like I said, you saw what the goal was here, because I saw it on SportsCenter the other day when they're doing, their little 3-headed panel there talking about all the updates and everything. Adam Schefter's in the middle. Or Ian Rappaport's in the middle, whoever, whatever it is. I pretty much the same person, John. I mean, let's be honest. They're the same exact person. But, whatever.
Well, one makes a lot more money, I think.
Yeah, well, okay, fair enough. At least, maybe in my eyes, they're pretty much, they each provide information that's fed to them, because that's just how the industry works now. I mean, there's the top guys, and that's it. But anyways, he's talking about, I think the statement was, Aaron Rodgers has already been the quickest to come back from an Achilles injury. And I laughed because I said, bingo. That's exactly what Aaron Rodgers was going for. Not coming back, because he hasn't come back from anything. He's essentially doing glorified rehab. This is what he would be doing throughout this progress of coming back, normally. I mean, that's what happens. These guys rehab, they get out, they do a little bit of light work. They're not, he's at quote unquote practice, but he's not going to be out there running first team offense or second team offense or scout team. He's going to go out, do some light tossing, light jogging, every little thing like that. So to me, like I said, it's been all a big kind of ego pump and a PR thing. And look, I get it, good for the Jets. It's about maybe the only thing they got going for him, until they heard that he'd be willing to be involved in the recruitment phase next offseason. And I'm like, if I'm the Jets, I'm like, you know what, Aaron? Focus on rehab. We'll figure this out, because, quite frankly, GM Aaron Rodgers may be worse than GM Bill Belichick in my esteemed colleagues' eyes here. I don't believe that. I don't believe that, obviously, but I'm saying you might even believe that.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I mean, well, Aaron Rodgers came with Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb and Billy Turner on the offensive line, and these guys are all past their. Oh well, I saved that for last. That's for last, without question. Yeah, so he brought them all there with him to Green Bay. Now they would perform better if he was quarterbacking. I would give you.
Oh, sure, absolutely. But as I said the other day, though, John, and I kind of came to this epiphany. This would have been. I don't think this would have been a playoff season, to be honest with you. I don't think they're much better with or without Aaron. And this isn't a knock on Aaron Rodgers. I just think, and you've been kind of pounding this drum since day one. The offensive line is awful. It's only gotten worse. Again, the players that came along. I mean, look, Randall Cobb is just old, John.
He's been old for 5 years.
Yeah, like this is like if Tom Brady brought like Troy Brown along with him in like 2014. Like, come on, Troy Brown, come join me. Like, what? Like, love Troy Brown, great player when he was in his prime. For obviously what the Patriots were doing relative to the Patriots. Obviously, again, no one's going to call a guy who's, we're okay. You know what? We're not even going to get into that whole splitting hairs thing about great players and all this nonsense. But the point is like, that's the equivalent of it. So I don't think the Jets would be much better. And when you're talking about, Aaron Rodgers look, his legacy, and I say that with quotation marks, because we've talked about this a while. I think it's forever going to be skewed for the wrong reasons, but there's also valid credit. It's kind of a mess. And going out there and having a disastrous season with the Jets, i.e. not an MVP caliber season, and I think probably a little bit worse because, like I said, the Jets situation is just terrible, that would destroy his quote-unquote legacy in the eyes of a lot of people. Do you agree?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, if they went 8-9 when they were expected to at least contend for the division, yeah, that would be a hit to his legacy. But I think at this point in the season, 14 games in, maybe they'd be 8-6, but they'd be in playoff contention because it seems like half the AFC is 7-7 or 8-6, and a bunch of teams are on the outside looking in, or close teams. I don't think they would be running away with the division. We put it that way.
Yeah,
but I think they would be better. They would be better with him at quarterback. The only thing is, with that offensive line, maybe he gets injured in week 4 instead of week 1. I mean, because that offensive line is so bad.
And John, and here's the thing: one of his faults is he holds onto the ball too long. So That's what I'm saying. Like, whether it's an injury or whether it's just, a season like we've seen in Green Bay from time to time, where it's like 6-7-1, or something like that. And it's like when Aaron Rodgers has constantly been held to the standard of Tom Brady, and if he goes to a new team and failed, regardless of if it was his fault, because people aren't going to care about that. I mean, your hardcore Rodgers fans will do the apologetic thing and all that stuff. But if he went to a new team and failed, he would get ripped for it. This is a guy who, and I said it before so many times, like, people wrongly judge him as being a playoff quarterback failure because they put him up against Tom Brady, or they have prematurely, kind of how I feel like they've done with Patrick Mahomes prematurely, to put them up against a guy who's won 7 Super Bowls, more than any other team in the league, let alone player. So we look at Aaron Rodgers and say, wow, 1 Super Bowl, that's it. And it's like, what are you talking about? That's it. You know how hard it is to win in this league? But again, the way we judge him is skewed. So fast forward to right now, towards the tail end of his career, he goes out and has a disastrous season with the Jets. That's why I said the other day, his injury might have been the best thing to happen to him, because in hindsight, this Jets team is just not that good. Like, their defense is okay, but how good of a coach is Robert Saleh? I don't know. I mean, we heard things like he was like texting radio person. Imagine Bill Belichick texting. Well, if he texted me, I mean, he would be doing pretty well right now.
He would clearly text the wrong radio personality, because he did that with former assistant coaches. So
right.
Maybe Bill should not be texting. I think he should just
stick to Snapface or MyFace or whatever.
Yeah, rotary phone.
Yeah, exactly. But the point is like, how much do we believe in Robert Saleh? And this goes back to my bigger point that there's not that many good coaches, and that we prematurely anoint coaches. Well, too, because I think Robert Saleh was the it thing for a little bit, and I think that's kind of worn off significantly because, well, we've seen a guy that might just be a little bit out of his element. Like, I think he's a good coach. I don't know if he's going to be able to, and we've seen it here with a team that you mismanage the quarterback position as about as poorly as you can do it. Yeah. I mean, because the
Jets have mismanaged the quarterback.
Oh, sure,
position?
sure.
Oh, sure. Well, on par with the Patriots, probably. So.
Oh, well, yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, in terms of, obviously I'm talking specifically about the Patriots have their own problems, but
what the Jets should have done is probably had a veteran backup. And then you have Zach Wilson as your third quarterback, a developmental quarterback.
They should have went for the offensive line too, instead of bringing in his buddies and
another pass rusher or whatever. Yeah, I thought Bakhtiari was in play, but Bakhtiari's pretty much done. I mean,
I probably that would have probably blown up. I think because he's obviously got some chronic knee issues and things like that. So
you've got to address the offensive line. Like, that to me is, I still don't understand. And look, maybe there's just not a lot of offensive linemen that are good anymore. Like, if I was running a franchise, obviously quarterback is the most important position. After that, let's formulate a really good offensive line. I mean, part of the reason the 49ers are great offensively, they've got all sorts of weapons, and Brock Purdy's doing a sensational job, and Kyle Shanahan's a great play caller, and yada, yada, yada. They have a really good offensive line. Same thing with the Detroit Lions. I mean, we can mark.
They have Trent Williams.
Decisions. Really good offensive. He takes care of a lot of the issues.
but I'd say this though, John, you'd actually be kind of surprised. They're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to pass protection. And you can kind of, pick and choose whatever, metric you want to look at. They're surprising. But again, having Trent Williams is a significant advantage because it's the left tackle and probably the most important. Like, obviously the Chiefs' tackles aren't great, but they have a great interior offensive line.
Right. You got to have something, right? I mean, you're not putting together an offensive line. Like, remember when Dallas, 6-7 years ago, had 3 future Hall of Famers among their offensive line?
It. Like, they wasted it.
Yeah, and they still couldn't win. And, then injuries started kicking in, and Trent Frederickson ended up retiring earlier than expected. Zach Martin and obviously Tyron Smith are both sensational, but they have been able to stay healthy. But I would just focus on the offensive line and make sure that thing's buttoned up, because half of your offensive players play on the offensive line, and they're so critical to your skilled guys being at their best.
And again, especially a guy like Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not saying, again, based on his, if you're going to sit there and say, what's, he doesn't have that many faults, but what's one of his faults? Well, he tends to sometimes, and we saw this in the play that he got injured in, he tends to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. He doesn't, he's more protective of his, or selective rather, of his pass attempts. And sometimes that comes back to bite him. So, you're telling me, I saw Zach Wilson get like folded up into like 6 different angles the other day. And it's like, at that point, I'm with you. I don't even know if Aaron Rodgers makes it through October based on how poorly they played. Now, again, yeah, of course, he's going to make them better and he's going to take away some of those issues. But, we've seen plenty of examples of them just not being good enough. The Jets offensive line. I mean, the quarterback certainly adds to that. I mean, if you're not a great quarterback, you're not doing your offensive line any favors, and you're certainly putting yourself in every bad position possible. But you can see on tape when you watch some of this offensive line play, they're just not that good. And again, Aaron Rodgers, I'd be surprised, in hindsight now. I mean, obviously he didn't make it through the season, but had he not got injured that early, I'm kind of with you, John. I don't know if he'd make it through this season because, he has been has dealt with injuries in the past. Something, again, Brady didn't, except for the knee injury, yeah, I
mean, Rodgers essentially missed large chunks of 2 seasons. He did come back both times, one time prematurely, which made no sense.
Right.
With the broken collarbone, and then this one.
Exactly the situation we're in now, too.
Yeah.
Except that I don't even think he's close to being healthy. So I don't, like, at least with the collarbone, that's a little bit different, in terms of certain people.
That's probably a pain management thing as well.
Yeah. And obviously there's a certain amount that you need to, have the bones heal. But at the same time, It's like, it's a little bit different. Achilles is just a matter of time. Like, you need time. Like, time is huge when it comes to that. Certainly at his age, and his collarbone. Well, the collarbone was what year was that? Was that 2015?
2013 was the left collarbone. Okay. 2017 was the right collarbone.
Okay, yeah. So
he came back in 13, got them into the playoffs. They lost to San Francisco in the wild card. Then 17, he came back against Carolina. I believe it was late November. He's trying to come back to maybe get them back to the playoffs. They were really good that year. They were 4-1 when he broke his collarbone, and he's playing a really high level. Broke the collarbone against Minnesota on his throwing side, and then tried to come back prematurely. You can just tell he wasn't right. He shouldn't have come back.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying now. It's like, put everything else aside. I mean, you just can't. Like, it would just be foolish. There's no reason for him to take a single snap the rest of the season. Like, I mean, he should be focusing more on utilizing the entire offseason to get healthy for next year because, he's got to continue to rehab and then make sure that his body is ready to withstand a season in his 40s after having a year off. So, there's just a lot to it that I think it's kind of, it was always silly to think that he would ever come back. I think it's more of an ego trip on his behalf to continue to kind of push this, and it's not surprising. I mean, it is who he is. I mean, that's, it's about the only positive thing the Jets have going is the hope that, like, he's going to somehow come back and be 2011 Aaron Rodgers, because that's probably what they need to be successful, because they just don't have good enough players around him. And I don't, who knows what they're going to do in the offseason, but so far they've shown an unwillingness to ever push back against Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like, Aaron Rodgers is in control of that franchise. He's taken 4 snaps with this team, and he's pretty much in control. So I don't think that, like I said, the smart thing to do would be like, Aaron, go into darkness retreat, go do what you got to do. Let us handle the personnel side of things. But unfortunately, I don't think that's gonna happen. So
even if he is controlling the franchise, don't you think? I mean, he appears to be a fairly smart guy, kind of knows football. Wouldn't he want, like, help along the offensive line and say, make sure, because Green Bay always had pretty good offensive line. They drafted well. They put together some good units, and I think he's good at commanding the offensive line. Again, he holds the ball too long. That's a flaw of his. But you would think that what's your request for the offseason, Aaron? to me would get me a left tackle so that I know my blind side is covered. That should be priority number one. I think Garrett Wilson's a good receiver. If he has more than a second and a half to try to get open, then that could work.
Well, this is probably a cynic in me, but when it comes to motivation, if you're Aaron Rodgers, I think he's more concerned about having the weapons around him.
That'd be crazy. I mean, I think if I was a quarterback, I'd like to have an extra second or two to throw, then someone else could get open.
Yeah, but again, Aaron Rodgers is very protective of his numbers. I mean, let's be honest. Some people may take that as a criticism. Maybe it is. I don't know, but I think it's safe to assume that he, like more so than like I don't think. Like, I think, of course, Brady cares. When players say they don't care, of course they care. That's a lie. That's a sports lie. But I also think it's genuine when obviously, because we've seen 20 years of it, Tom willing to do whatever to win. Whereas I think Aaron Rodgers wants to be a little bit more in control of that. Like he wants to be the guy that has to throw the game-winning touchdown pass. You know what I mean? And
right.
Again, some people are going to take that as a criticism. Maybe it is. That's not my motivation in this. I'm just giving a honest, take on what I see from these two different players. And look, different things drive different people. This type of attitude has driven Aaron Rodgers for the most part, and a lot of it's positive. But sometimes, it can turn negative, and I think that's what we've seen before, and that's what we've seen in some situations in the past, like even with Green Bay. So, but anyways, that's gonna do it. So tomorrow, like I said, we'll be back. We're gonna give our picks. Obviously, there's Saturday and Sunday games this weekend again. That's gonna be fun, right? Saturday, yeah, we got Saturday.
We've got Sunday and Monday.
Oh yeah. NFL just takes over the end of the year. The kind of mad rush towards the finish line. But we will give our picks, of course, and then we will, air some grievances, some more. So should be fun. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Braden. He was on fire. Woody is just a puppet, like Woody from Toy Story. I like that. He is worried about his pharmaceutical business and all that stuff. So anyways, so thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.